In this lesson, we're going to talk about some mechanical hazards that can be found on playgrounds. Playground equipment is intended for collective use, either public or private, and so it will be subject to a much more intensive use with more users at the same time. For this reason, it needs to be more stable and more resistant than activity toys, which are intended for domestic use only, so they will not be subject to the same type of loads. Playground equipment is a permanent installation structure, and its safety will depend not only on the equipment but on the way it will be installed, including the siting, construction of foundations, and also inspection and maintenance through all its lifetime. Considering mechanical hazards, they are linked with the interaction of children with equipment. We're going to see some of the potential dangerous situations that need to be addressed at the design stage. One of them is stability, and that can be one of the most hazardous situations with fatal consequences. It's the collapse, if the equipment collapses on children. So there have been some fatal and other very serious cases concerning one-post equipment, where it is equipment where the stability relies on one cross-section only. And this can happen due to bad design of the anchorage point, bad construction, bad installation, or lack of inspection and maintenance. Also, structural integrity is very important for one of the other hazards that can have to be addressed. Structural integrity is, for instance, the supporting points of swings that may break, or the chains in cableways or swings or other equipment that may also break, either for initial wrong materials or dimensions, but also due to lack of maintenance. When it comes to falls, contrary to childcare articles, where there is a need to prevent small children from falling down from a height, in playground equipment, children are expected to move freely and experience challenge situations in order to learn about themselves, to explore their own limits and cope with risk sensations. This type of play is very important for the growing process. These sensations include climbing up equipment, so to experience heights. And of course, when there is a height, there is a risk of falling, but also of jumping purposely. But these are some of the mechanical, typical hazards that will happen on playgrounds, because you need heights in order to give challenging spaces for children. To reduce the likelihood of falls or the seriousness of consequence should they occur, there are a few requirements that can be adopted as and risk reduction measures. In the design of play equipment, standards set different requirements for fall protection according to the type of equipment in order to reduce the risk of inadvertent fall. And this can be achieved by the use of barriers, guardrails or handrails to keep balance, or additional grip opportunities. The impact area of the playgrounds underneath the equipment and in a certain extension around it has to be protected with an impact attenuation surface in order to reduce the severity of injuries in the case of a fall. Another mechanical hazard is body entrapment. As part of play and challenge, children like to experience passing through openings, like in horizontal nets or between the platform and the barrier, between two rods in a ladder. It is very important that the equipment allows for total and free passage of the body, so that the whole body or part of it, the head, neck or finger, does not get stuck during movement without having feet support. If the child jumps out of the equipment, he should also be able to go straight to the ground without being trapped during the movement, either his clothes being trapped or part of his body. If the roof of an equipment is accessible, because it has some encouraging features for children to climb up to the top, then when climbing down or jumping out of it, the clothes of the children or part of his body cannot get stuck in the movement down to the floor. Other mechanical hazards have to do with collision with obstacles. So when you have forced movement equipment, which is equipment where the user cannot control the movement at all times due to gravity, the course of the path of the equipment has to be completely free from obstacles. This is called a free space, so that the child, during the movement that he cannot control, so he cannot stop when he wants, will not collide or get stuck on the way, like in a swing or going down a slide. He has to have a free movement without obstacle all the way through. Another mechanical hazard is moving parts, as part of the body could get crushed or crushed between two moving parts. So it is very important that those moving parts do not create dangerous openings where parts of the body, and especially fingers, would get caught and crushed by the moving part with a changing dimension in the opening or a narrow opening. When it comes to inflatable play equipment, we have a slightly different situation, because often it's temporary installations. So each time you install the equipment, you have to check the anchorage points. So, because one of the most common and serious accidents happening is when the inflatable is carried away by the wind, if the anchorages are not strong enough. And this has caused fatal situations where children were thrown out of the equipment. Also, the mechanism in inflatable equipment for falling is different, because there is an uncontrolled movement and forced movement of the user, and they can fall out of the equipment if the walls are not tall enough comparing to the height of the user. When it comes to fully enclosed play equipment, or also with inflatables, the contention net should not make it possible to climb, externally climbing the equipment. It has happened that children climb this type of equipment from the outside, and then when they fall out, there are obstacles in the ground, or there is no attenuation in the impact surface. So external climbability is one issue that has to be addressed at the design stage or in the choice of materials. Another hazard that has to be addressed at the design stage, but also afterwards with maintenance, is the edges, the finishes of equipment. Edges and cutting points, protrusions of bolts, so that surfaces where children could be in contact with and be injured without the possibility to anticipate. There are other mechanical hazards, but we will have the opportunity to see them in practice in the following lesson. Thank you.